Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Mid-Level Media. So if you remember, it was the beginning of May, I started a monthly Blu-ray and 4K watch challenge, and the entire point of that challenge was an attempt to tackle my ever-growing backlog of films that I've got in the collection. And it's something I get constant criticism about, and even without the criticism, I'm insecure of it myself. Just all the movies that I have back there that I continue to collect, and I don't have watched. I look back there and I see all these incredible films, all these movies I would probably love, and I haven't watched them yet, and it irritates me. It does. It honestly does. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to pick out 10 titles, 15 titles, and I'm going to try to tackle those titles for the month. Now, it took me way longer than a month to do this challenge, but it was very important to me that I get these 15 titles that I picked out. Blu-rays and 4Ks, and I can pick DVDs as well. Maybe I'll pick DVDs for this month as well, which I'm going to change the whole dynamic of this, guys. We'll get into that here in a second, the months and all that kind of stuff. But I can pick out whatever's in my collection that I haven't watched yet. I can pick out. Now, the stipulation is it can't be a brand new title. It can't be something that I brought in, within the last couple of weeks. It has to be something that's at least like a couple of months, 3 or 4 months, 3 or 4 years, whatever I've had back in the collection that just kind of passed me by. I get so much in as far as like new titles that I'm buying, new titles that I'm getting in from boutique and studios and stuff like that. Like my table right here, guys, is full of stuff that I need to cover, that I need to go over. So I have to continue to try to tackle that stuff by the month, but I also want to go back in these months and tackle some of the older titles that, again, have passed me by. So creating this challenge, this monthly series, was a way to help me organize everything and have a game plan, I guess, going forward. And it kind of helped. It really did, because I had this stack of 15. I put it next to my TV and my player out there, and I just put them in order, and I just pulled one off the stack. I put it in. When I got done, I pulled the next one. I knew exactly what I needed to watch next. So it did help in that respect. But again, it took me much longer than I anticipated. So I'm going to be changing the dynamic of this. It's no longer going to be a monthly series. It's going to be a whenever I get it done series. So I'm going to, create these videos, and I'm going to call it something. It's going to be like the Backlog Watch Challenge or whatever. Just a series where I attempt to tackle the movies in my collection that I haven't watched yet. So all 15 of these movies were first-time watches. I've never seen them. But it could be other stuff as well. Like if I got a 4K in that I've seen the movie, but I haven't watched the 4K, or something like that, like I can throw that in the stack as well. So it doesn't have to necessarily be first-time watches, but all of these were first-time watches. I'm rambling already, guys. But anyway, what I'm going to do with this series, so I created the video where I picked all of these out, and I kind of went back in the collection, just kind of Blu-ray hunt style, went through the collection, picked out titles, and it was really cool because you get to go back there and actually look at the collection, examine the collection, see what titles do I need to watch, and there's so much back there that I still need to watch, guys. I know I get criticized about it on a daily basis, I feel like, on the channel, but I am attempting to knock this stuff down, and I did watch all 15 of these. So what I'm going to do with this series going forward is, first and foremost, today we're going to go over all 15 of these titles. I'm going to give little mini reviews, just mini thoughts on these films, just kind of rambling thoughts on the films, short form thoughts on the films, just off the cuff. I don't really have any notes to go into these movies. And then I'm going to go back in the collection. This is all going to be in one video, guys, so I'm going to try to go through this quickly. Go back in the collection, pick out the next 10 to 15 titles. I think it's going to be 10. I think I'm just going to do 10 going forward. Pick out the next 10 titles, come back over here, show you what 10 I picked out, and then next month we're going to come back, watch those 10, pick out another 10, and that's going to be the series going forward. That's going to be the formula of the series going forward. And if it takes me 2 months to watch those 10, then it takes me too much. If it takes me 2 weeks to watch those 10, then it takes me 2 weeks. Anyway, I'm rambling. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And let's get into the 15 movies that I watched this past month and a half. So it took me a month and a half to watch these. Again, I was also watching new titles to review and things like that, but I'm going to go through these in order of what I watched recently. And the title that I watched the most recent was actually last night, and that was Destry Rides Again. So this is a film from 1939. It's got James Stewart and Marlene Dietrich, which look, guys, I'm going to butcher names in this video probably, but I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce her name. But this was a really fun movie. I like this one a lot. Now, I did watch the special features as well. I just love James Stewart as an actor. Like anything James Stewart, I'm all over. I actually made my wife watch this with me like the first 45 minutes before she went up and went to bed. And I was introducing her to James Stewart because she hasn't really ever watched anything James Stewart before. And I was like, this is the guy right here. As soon as he comes on screen, like he just takes over. And it takes him about 20 to 25 minutes to come on this movie. I'm like, what is it with James Stewart? It feels like every James Stewart movie, he takes so long to get on the actual screen. It's almost like a build up to when you're going to see James Stewart. And like when he comes on screen, it's like he just takes over the entire movie. But in this movie's case, like Marlene Dietrich is also a force to be reckoned with in this film as well. So I just thought this was a really fun movie. I didn't know it was supposed to be like satirical and comedic in nature. I guess that this was this generation's idea of a spoof. This was kind of supposed to be like a send-up of the Western of that era. And it is a little ridiculous and over the top just with the people shooting their guns everywhere in the beginning. But the entire premise of this film is this is a small town, a crooked town, and Marlene Dietrich is kind of at the center of this town. She plays the character of Frenchie, and she's kind of running the show, this kind of crooked show. She's not running the entire show, but she's kind of at the center of it. She's an instigator in this town, and James Stewart comes in after the sheriff is killed. And he's the new deputy under a new sheriff that they pick out because they think he's a stupid drunk in the town and he's not going to cause them any trouble. So they pick him out to be the new sheriff. He brings in James Stewart as the deputy, and James Stewart is trying to clean up this town using his wit. But I really enjoy this. I watched all the special features, the new interview with critic Imogen Sarah Smith. I watched the new interview with Donald Dewey, the author of James Stewart biography. Really good special features. And this one came out in 2020. And it was a 4K scan, and it looked great. The Blu-ray looked great, and the Blu-ray was actually supervised, or at least advised, by Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg. So, I mean, you had like two of the greatest of all time, like advising on this 4K remastering. So, this was a fantastic looking Blu-ray, though. This is a movie from 1939. Looked great, but a really fun Western. James Stewart, Marlene Dietrich, Destry, keep wanting to say Destiny. Destry rides again. And I'm a big fan of Westerns, guys. I don't know why that was my last movie, but I saved it for last. All right, we also watched Don't Breathe 2 on 4K. Not as good as Don't Breathe. Not as good as Don't Breathe. Now, this one is not directed by Fede Alvarez. It's directed by somebody else. Rado Sab. I can't even pronounce it. Sayogas. I can't even pronounce that name, guys. So this one is basically like, you got, God, what is his name? Stephen Lang. He's the villain of the first movie. In this one, they basically try to redeem him, and they give him this character arc with this little girl that he finds in the beginning of the film. So that's kind of weird, especially where his character ends up and goes in the first film. You don't really feel like you should be rooting for his character, but you kind of do because the people that he's opposing are even worse than he is. So especially with what they want to do with their daughter. It was okay. It was okay. Again, like the first Don't Breathe, directed by Fede Alvarez, I think is like one of the greatest horror films of this modern generation. And this was not that, but it was okay. It was a easy watch, I feel like, to get through. There's some good kills, some good gore scenes in the movie. The 4K looked really good as well. As Above, So Below, I checked this out. I'll be honest, I love most found footage horror movies. I thought this was okay. It was an okay found footage horror movie. I did not love it. I think there's some good moments throughout the film, but like the end just left me very cold. Like it's a very straightforward ending. They're like usually with the found footage movies, like there's this big pop at the end, and there's not with this one. They just kind of get out and that's it. So I don't know. This one just left me feeling a little cold. It had some good moments throughout, but I didn't think it was great. I was honestly hoping and expecting a little bit better with this one. But if you like found footage, you'll probably enjoy it. And next up, we have Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. This is a movie directed by Shane Black, and it's got Robert Downey Jr. in it. It's got Val Kilmer. It's got Michelle Monaghan. And I thought this was okay. But to be honest, I was hoping that I would like it a lot better. I was hoping it was going to be more like The Nice Guys, and it's really not. I found it hard to root for Robert Downey Jr. or Val Kilmer. I just didn't really like either one of them as characters, and I thought they had zero chemistry in this movie. Michelle Monaghan is really good in this film, and I don't know. was kind of disappointed by this. And this was one that everybody loves, so I'm sure you're going to be commenting down below, Ken, you're stupid for not liking Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. But I don't know, there was solid direction here by Shane Black, but this one just kind of left me like, it's okay. It's a 3 out of 7. It's a 3-star movie, I think. But if you love Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, I get it. I mean, it came out like 20 years ago almost, so maybe it was bigger when it came out. We got Vamp. This is an Arrow video release right here. And really cool Arrow video release right here with some really awesome artwork on it. I really didn't know anything about this film other than it was about vampires. And this is about them, a couple of guys that are trying to get a prostitute for a college party to kind of, you know, help them into this fraternity or help them be like seen as cooler in this fraternity. So they go to this strip club to get a prostitute to come back to the party, or a dancer or a stripper or whatever, not necessarily a prostitute. But it's pretty good. It's a pretty good movie. It's got Grace Jones in it as the head vampire, and they go to this strip joint and they turn out to be vampires. So it's that kind of deal. But it doesn't happen and it doesn't play out the way I expected it to. I'll just say that. But it's a cool movie. It's got a cool like 80s vibe to it. Cool music in it as well. Just nice, cool colors. Like this was a really nice transfer by Arrow Video as well. Like all the stuff in the actual like club setting looked great. There's a lot of green lights and purple lights and stuff going around. All that stuff looked really good. So there's also a good amount of special features here. There's a brand new documentary featuring interviews with director Richard Wink and director of photography. So this is a really good release by Arrow Video. Really cool movie. Really cool vampire film from the 80s that I would recommend. And next up, we got a Brian De Palma film. We got Obsession right here. And the further we go into this, guys, I'm going to be recollecting fewer things about these movies because they were weeks ago by this point. I think I watched this like 3 weeks ago, but Obsession, I remember liking this. This is about a guy that loses his wife, and then like years later, he finds this woman that looks like his wife. And what I'll say is the ending of this movie is pretty wild. And I didn't really see it coming until I saw it coming. I was like, oh, that's where they're going with that. But this is, it's Brian De Palma. And at this point in his career, like he was really riffing off of Alfred Hitchcock. So a lot of people said that this is Brian De Palma's Vertigo, and I can definitely see those influences there. I enjoyed this. It was good, and I could definitely see the Vertigo influences for sure. But like, there's so much about Brian De Palma's earlier films that I'm noticing, like Sisters and Obsession, that's just like, they're like straight up like copies of Hitchcock movies. And I don't like that as much as I do some of his later films, where you can clearly see that he's riffing off of Hitchcock and definitely influenced by Hitchcock, but that doesn't inform every single decision that he makes on his directing of that movie. So I appreciate those later films like Body Double and Dressed to Kill and Blowouts, and Carlito's Way even has a lot of Hitchcock influence in it. A lot more than these earlier ones like Sisters and Obsession. Flowers in the Attic. I got this turned to the reversible cover. Let me turn this around. This movie's got Kristy Swanson in it, and it's from the late 80s. So she's a very young Kristy Swanson. So this would be like right before she did Buffy the Vampire Slayer. This was pretty good. It kind of felt like I don't know if it was, but it kind of felt like a made-for-TV movie. It's about these kids who their dad passes away, and their mom, who's been estranged from her parents for years, her mom has very rich parents, and they're out of money because their dad passed away, and I guess he didn't leave them any money, didn't leave them anything after he passed away. So the mom feels like they're forced to go live with the parents that she's been battling with for years or not talking to for years. So they go back to their mansion, and when they get there, the kids are forced to live in the attic because the mom does not see them as legitimate children because they did not like their dad. They were very mad at their mom for marrying their dad, so they don't like those kids. So they're like, stay up in the attic and we'll give you food, but you're not allowed out of the attic, is basically what was going on. Now the mom, while all this is happening, is trying to get back in the father's good graces so he can put her in his will before he passed away because he's very sick. So and then as we progress in the film, it's kind of revealed that the mom's motivations aren't entirely pure, and she doesn't have the best interest of her kids in mind. It's decent. I like Flowers in the Attic. I didn't love it. So Good Arrow release though, for sure. This is a movie that I freaking loved, and that is Kurt Russell in Breakdown. So I had never seen this movie before. This one came out in 1997. I should have been watching films like this in 1997. Some of these movies I made shorts about, and this was one of them. But for whatever reason, I did not watch Breakdown in 1997. It's like all of Kurt Russell's like big movies from this time, or not necessarily big movies, but his well-known movies, like I didn't see. Breakdown is a really cool movie. How I describe this movie is Duel meets the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like it kind of feels a little bit Texas Chainsaw Massacre just because of the guy that stumbles into this town that's kind of got its own like political ecosystem and own way of running things, and it's just kind of corrupt. So you got Kurt Russell and his wife that stumble into this town, and something happens, and there's a trucker involved that's kind of chasing them, and Kurt Russell has to find his wife, and there's just a lot of different things that's going on in this movie. But it's a really good film, and Kurt Russell is amazing in this movie. He's great as like the everyman that kind of is forced into this like action role and forced to perform feats that are beyond his character's capabilities. But he's just great at those types of I'm getting tongue tied already. Those types of roles. But really good Paramount Presents release right here. The actress that plays his wife is really good, but she's not in it a lot because she gets kidnapped, and they don't really show her perspective in the film. It's just from the perspective of Kurt Russell trying to find her. But really good Paramount Presents edition right here. I love these editions that fold out with the poster. And yeah, this one's been in the collection for a while. I've heard great things about it, and I was glad I finally got a chance to watch it. Really good remaster as well. This looked great on Blu-ray. But yeah, Breakdown, really, really good movie. Really enjoyed that one. Frankenhooker right here, guys. I watched this release from Frank Henenlotter. And you know what? The more I'm getting into Frank Henenlotter films, the more I'm enjoying. Really enjoyed Brain Damage. Really liked Basket Case. And Frankenhooker was like the best of everything Frank Henenlotter. Like this is the most Henenlotter film that I've seen yet. It's ridiculous. It's satirical, but it is so much fun. The scene in the hotel room where all of the prostitutes start blowing up, it's freaking wild and hilarious and great. And the effects, like you can just tell a lot of work was put into that scene, even though the effects like look very fake in certain parts, but you could just tell, you could see the work that was put into it because this movie was very limited with its budget. And I really enjoyed it. And there was tons of problems like making this film. Like Frank Henenlotter talks about it in the special features very candidly. There's a great documentary on here. So there were a lot of issues going on behind the scenes. And the fact that Frank Henenlotter put this movie together and it was actually really fun and enjoyable is a testament to how good of a director he was at this time. So I enjoyed this movie, and I want to watch Basket Case 2 and 3 and some of Henenlotter's other films for sure, because I really dig him as a director. I do. And Frankenhooker is probably my favorite movie I've seen of his so far. Really fun movie. We got 2 Days in the Valley right here. I really enjoyed this one. A more modern kind of neo-noir flick. But this was known for being Charlize Theron's like first big movie role. And she's great in this movie. Terry Hatcher's in this film. There's a fight scene between the two of them, and it's freaking spectacular. But the whole cast in this movie is awesome. You got Jeff Daniels, James Spader, Eric Stoltz, Charlize Theron. I thought that the story and the mystery that they set up wasn't the most compelling, but it's led by the characters and the cast, and that's what makes it entertaining. I enjoyed this one. Nice little, modern neo-noir. 2 Days in the Valley. And the scan, I think this was a 4K scan. This is a very recent Kino Lorber. I think it came out last November. But the 4K scan on this is freaking immaculate. This looked absolutely fantastic. I don't know if you would ever need this on 4K, because this 4K scan on the Blu-ray looked excellent. We got Buried Alive right here from Vinegar Syndrome. This was okay. I didn't love it. It's to be honest, I'm struggling to really understand or remember like what this movie was about. It was about them taking people and basically putting them behind brick walls and like building up the brick walls and like burying them alive, essentially. But it's got Donald Pleasance in it. It's got a lot of people in it that you would recognize. It's got Nia Long. I remember Nia Long being in this movie. She's a smaller character in this film, and she would go on to to be in so many like iconic films of the 90s, but she's in this film for a very short period of time. Robert Vaughn's in this movie, so John Carradine's in this film, so it's got a recognizable cast in it. But I found it kind of a slog to get through. It's based on an Edgar Allan Poe poem. It's okay. Vinegar Syndrome title right here. I can't say I would highly recommend this one. Maybe if it's like 10 to 12 bucks in a future sale. I think I spent $12 on it because it was in one of the daily deals or something in one of the subscriber weeks, but it's okay. And next up we got Raising Cain, another Brian De Palma film. This was early 90s De Palma, and this felt like a throwback to when he was really ripping off Hitchcock again. So this is another like really Hitchcock inspired film right here. But if you've seen the movie Split with James McAvoy, it's basically the same, but you got John Lithgow, who's got multiple personalities. The only thing about this movie is I found it hard to distinguish between what was fake and what was reality at certain points in the film. I don't feel like the movie does a good job of letting you know like what's really going on, and maybe that's intentional, but I found it to be a little frustrating because I couldn't really understand what was happening in this film. Not even when we got to the very end of the movie, I was like, I still don't really understand what was going on with John Lithgow. You know, they try to explain it in this lengthy monologue in the middle of the movie, but I still didn't understand like what fully was going on in this movie. So I thought it was good. Again, not top tier De Palma, but it was okay. This is a great release from Scream Factory, though. Raising Cain, was happy to still get it with a slipcover, even though I bought it all these years later. And next up, we got Staying Alive. This one feels like such a long time ago that I checked this out, but it's a good movie. I enjoyed this one a lot. I can see why it got criticism when it came out, because if you compare this to Saturday Night Fever, like, it's apples and oranges. This is not the same tonally as Saturday Night Fever. It's completely different. It is very 80s. It's directed by Sylvester Stallone, right in the middle of him doing Rocky 3 and Rocky 4. You can see so many Rocky influences in this movie with the way that it's directed. There's montages all over the place. This feels like a gigantic music video. So it really, I think like watching this and watching Rocky 4, they'd be like good companion pieces with each other. But I like this movie a lot. I like John Travolta in this. He's playing the same character as Saturday Night Fever, but it's more hyper stylized version of that character, more over the top version of that character. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. Staying Alive right here. Great music as well. We also got Galaxy Quest right here. I had a lot of people tell me I needed to watch Galaxy Quest. It's one of the greatest movies of the 90s, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. I love Tim Allen. I love Sigourney Weaver. Like, I love a lot of the people that's in this movie. Alan Rickman. But you know what? I'm not a huge Star Trek fan, so I don't really get into like what they were going for this film. Like other people might get into it, but I still thought it was very creative, like them going to the different worlds. It's just a fun movie. And it's really like not much more than that to me. Like, I just thought it was a fun kind of sci-fi comedy with some good bits in it. I love Tim Allen and Sigourney Weaver. Like, I could watch the two of them all day. So it's a movie that I'll probably rewatch at some point. Like, if it gets a 4K, I'll probably pick it up. But to me, it's not like one of the greatest movies of the 90s. It's just a really fun, entertaining ride. So I like Galaxy Quest, but I didn't love that one like some other people do. And lastly, guys, we have Martin from Second Sight. This is the first film that I watched for my challenge. And you know what? It was very different than I thought it was going to be, because this is a movie where, you know, Martin is, you think he's a vampire. You think that's what it's going to be. But then you're like, well, is he a vampire? Like, what is actually going on here? So it's a movie that has turns that I wasn't really expecting it to, and it's just a really different kind of movie than I was expecting. So I'll give credit to George A. Romero for creating a movie like this, because it's just, it had to have been like wildly different than everything else at the time. And I thought the 4K was really well done. This was a very low budget movie though, so it's super grainy and just really like low quality in certain points. But I think that knowing Second Sight, they probably did the best job that they could have done. There's a documentary on here as well on the making of Martin, which I did check out. Also. So yeah, I recommend watching this movie. It's a very interesting film and very different than I was expecting for sure. But there you have it. That's the 15 titles that I watched the past month and a half. Let's go back in the collection and pick out 10 more titles, and then I'll bring you back over here and show you what I'm checking out for the next backlog challenge. All right, going over here to the shelf again to pick out some titles. Let's start with the 4Ks. Let's try to get a couple of 4Ks that I haven't yet watched that I need to watch. All right. Well, we got Monty Python's The Meaning of Life. I have never seen this movie, and I've got it back here. So let's pick this one out. Let's put this one down. There's a lot of 4Ks that I have that I haven't watched yet, but I'm trying to keep this to first time watches. This is very hard to do off the cuff. What did I pick out last time? Oh, The Wailing. Let me do The Wailing. Because I did The Wailing last time and I didn't pick it for the final cut. So we'll try to get that this time. Let me try to get another one of my second sites. I need to check out May. So I'm going to add May to the stack. Put that down there. Is there any Arrow big box set limited editions that I haven't watched? I think I've actually watched all my limited editions. I mean, I've seen most of those Arrow titles. Keep going down. I know there's another Arrow that I need to watch. There has to be another obscure horror film that I haven't watched that I need to watch. Oh, I know what I want to watch. I want to watch House 2 because it's been a long time since I've seen House 2. I grew up with the House films, but I haven't watched House 2 in a very long time. So it's not going to be a first time watch, but I do want to watch that. All right, let's see if there's a Criterion. I like to go through section by section, pick out this stuff. Criterion that I need to watch. What is one that just is begging to be watched? It hasn't been watched yet from the Criterion Collection. How about another classic? Let's go with All About Eve. Bette Davis. I have not seen All About Eve, so we're going to put that in the stack. You know what? I have got to watch something from TerrorVision. I've got these TerrorVision titles, and I haven't watched any of them. Let's go with... Should I go with Wood Chipper Massacre or Hollow Gates? Those are really cool slipcovers. Let's go with Hollow Gate. Even though it's got a pumpkin on it, it's not Halloween, but we'll go over to the Venegas Syndrome section. Bloodsucking Freaks I haven't checked out yet. I probably need to check that out. You know what? I want to watch some Rowdy Piper. So we're going to pick out Hell Comes the Frogtown. We're going to pick out Hell Comes the Frogtown. Put it over here. I know there's a Severin title that I watched, or that I got last year, that I need to watch. I need to put Della Morte Dell'Amore in my stack. And I got to set that over here. Well, one of my goals for this year was to check out all the Brian De Palma films, and I think that there's still one that I need to watch. But I'll save that because I want to watch Brain Scan. I haven't seen Brain Scan, and there were some people that wanted me to watch Brain Scan, I noticed in the last video. So we're going to check out Brain Scan. And I got one more title to pick, so let's go for some of my regular Blu-rays. What do I need to watch? Let's go with Steven Spielberg. I've never seen the Sugarland Express, and I bought this one, I feel like a year ago. And it's early Spielberg, so let's check this out. All right, guys, so we're back over here at the table, and I've got my watches finalized, my 10 movies that I need to check out next as a part of my backlog challenge. I don't know if that's what I'm going to call this or not, guys. It's probably going to be a different title, but this is going to be episode 1. This is going to be episode 1 of whatever series, of whatever I title the series. But I like the randomness of this because I really didn't have any idea like what I was going to pick out before I went over there. I'm just kind of going through the collection and grabbing stuff that I haven't watched yet that's in the collection that needs to be watched. So I got Hell Comes the Frogtown right here. This is a Vinegar Syndrome title, and I did get this new slipcover version I think like a year or so ago, but this has got Rowdy Piper in it, so I'm excited to finally check that one out. I'm also going to be checking out my first TerrorVision title, Hollow Gate. I don't know if this is a steaming pile of crap or not, but I did purchase this for like 25 bucks, so I need to at least watch it in the collection. So there you go, Hollow Gate. All About Eve. I'm sure this is going to be a great watch. This is a classic film with Bette Davis, and I've heard great things about the movie. We've also got House 2, The Story Continues. I remember really liking this one, more so than the first one when I was a kid. Mostly for that like evil undead cowboy that comes back. I always thought that was super cool. And this just has like a funner cast of characters, I feel like, than the first one. So I'm excited to rewatch that. We also got May from Second Sight right here, which is one that I've been meaning to watch since I bought it last July. So excited to check that one out. We've got The Wailing right here, which everybody wanted me to watch last video, but I didn't pick it. Last video, I brought a bunch of stuff over here, and then I kind of picked through those and kind of decided with you guys what I was going to grab. I may do more of that type of stuff in the future, but I already spent so much time talking about the previous titles. I just wanted to pick what I was getting and bring it back over here and talk about it. But The Wailing on 4K, I'm going to check out this month. Monty Python and the Meaning of Life, I'm going to check that out. Should be fun for a laugh. The Sugarland Express from Steven Spielberg, which I think is this like his first theatrical movie after Duel? I know Duel was his first movie, but I think Sugarland Express, it actually says that on the back, first theatrical film from Steven Spielberg. So it must have been his second film after Duel. And then we've got Brain Scan. I always heard good things about Brain Scan, so I'm excited to check that one out. 90s horror film. And then De La Mort. Did I get that title right? Which is also known as Cemetery Man from Severin Films. So Severin's really starting to ramp up their new announcements coming out in July. They've got Opera coming out, so I want to check out some more Severin film titles. I've still got 5 on the way. All that stuff I pre-ordered back in March, which I think was like Kathy's Curse and Butcher Baker, Nightmare Maker. That 4-pack, I got all 4 of them. The Great Alligator, I'm still waiting on that to come in. But De La Mort from Severin Films. Need to check this one out. I watched The Church, but I didn't watch this one yet. So I'm excited to watch all 10 of these movies, guys, for the next Blu-ray 4K challenge. But again, guys, let me know in the comment section below if you like these kind of videos, if you like following me on my backlog journey. Also, let me know what you're watching this month, this week, whatever, guys. I'm hoping to get through these by the end of June. Like, that's the goal, but it'll probably realistically bleed into July when I do my next update. But I'm going to try to get through these as quick as possible. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time.